conclude the live portion of North America and Vision, ASEA founder Tyler Norton.
Hey guys, it's great to be back with you. I hope you've enjoyed this morning. I've got my phone out, and I first want to say thanks to so many of you who are sending me your 6-word leadership legacy statements. I've been watching them, and I'm probably up to about 175 different ones. Jack just sent me "Live a Legacy that Lifts Others." Philip Freeman just sent me "Learn, Teach, Take, Give, Build, Evolve." I'm so thankful for all of your willingness to participate in this homework assignment, and I've sat in the back and been pulling my phone out and pointing it to people and showing the people sitting back there, Chuck and Jeremy and Gina and others, these beautiful statements of your leadership legacy. And so I want to congratulate you and thank you. You've inspired me this morning by sharing your thoughts and feelings about how you want to lead and the legacy you want to leave. It's really quite a privilege for me to wrap up the morning's live session with some thoughts and feelings. And I need to almost ask your forgiveness a little bit for kind of the way I want to approach this. It's a paradigm discussion, a shift in the paradigm or the way we see ourselves and the industry that we're in that I really want to unpack with all of you today. I've been thinking a lot about these remarks that I intend to share with you, and in particular, where we are as an organization, where we are as an industry. I think Jerem did a nice job earlier today kind of framing up where we stand inside of our industry and the opportunities that are before us. And I'm anxious to share some thoughts with you guys today. And to be honest, if we were together in a group setting, this might even be like a whiteboard session. So if you will, I kind of want to make this a little more informal with all of you. And I'd like you to imagine, if you could for a minute, you've got a notebook open and we're jotting thoughts and feelings down together. And if I was in a group setting, I'd be asking for some of your input on all of this. So hopefully we can get through this together. You know, we operate and live and have lived for many years inside of what is well known as multi-level marketing. And the MLM acronym is well known and in some cases gets maligned a little bit, gets indicted a little bit for what it represents. And the message that I wanted to share with you guys today is a pivot from multi-level marketing to what I'd like to call next level marketing. I think we should move away from MLM and move to NLM. And in my mind's eye, I think of the MLM or the multi-level marketing is kind of an old world approach. And in this paradigm shift that I'd like to explore and unpack with all of you, I want to challenge you to consider the idea that next level marketing should be our new world. And so if you'll give me your best attention, and I'd like to invite a little bit of introspection, you're going to notice that some of these concepts I aim to share with you today are things we've discussed before, but in different settings. And for me, I just sat several weeks ago and started jotting this down on a piece of paper, kind of toggling back and forth, and said, using a little bit of a play on words like, where do I want us to go as an organization? And frankly, what do I think the world is inviting us to go to? And what do we need to leave behind? I recently listened to an awesome talk that spoke about where we are as leaders. We're in a liminal space. They refer to it as liminal leadership. We're coming off of a collective trauma in the world that happened by way of a pandemic. We're coming off of, and still very much in, a collective trauma associated with economies and small businesses. And we're in this liminal or in-between space where the question is, we know it won't be the same moving forward. We know something's going to change. But what is the role of our leadership in this change? There's been such difficult discourse. There's been great tension in the world around race, around so many different things. How do we lead as human beings in this world, and how do we live a next level version of not just ourselves with this leadership legacy discussion from this morning, but as ASEA, how do we lead out in this industry and demonstrate what next level marketing, not multi-level, but next level marketing could look like and feel like? So that's kind of what I wanted to discuss with you guys today, and I want to take you on a little bit of a journey to do that. Now, to set this up, I want you to imagine we're going to build out kind of an old world paradigm, comparing and contrasting it with the new. And I'd like you to, as you read these words, as again, remember, I'm almost writing these on a whiteboard for you. As they come forward, I want you to think about framing each of these concepts this way. So traditional old world multi-level marketing was either obsessed with, super hyper focused on, or ultimately committed to being the first part, and what next level marketing, new world, would be obsessed with, committed to, and focused on becoming and being. So let's start this and see if this works in a virtual setting for all of us. The first thing that comes to my mind is that old world multi-level marketing spent so much time trying to be convincing. New world, next level marketing needs to be convicted. Now let's talk about this for a minute. Many of you have heard me say, conviction sells, emotions buy. Logic pays for auto ship. Conviction sells, emotions buy, logic pays for auto ship. All of us need to stop and ask ourselves, how well do we demonstrate conviction? We should stop worrying or being obsessed with or focused on being convincing, and we should work every day on being convicted. Our conviction is the end game for all of us. You know, Lyndon B. Johnson, the 36th US president, said, "You must believe in the argument you're advancing. What convinces," he said, "is conviction." If you don't believe in the argument you're advancing, you're as good as dead. The other person will sense and feel that something is not there, and no chain of reasoning, no matter how logical, elegant, or brilliant, will win your case for you. So this first pivot point in this paradigm shift from old world multi-level marketing to what I'm thinking of as NLM, next level marketing, says we can no longer just worry about trying to be convincing enough. We must work on being convicted. You know, I don't believe you're ever on trial if you are speaking something you truly believe. You're never on trial if you're speaking something that you truly believe. That conviction, okay, will enable you to care less, but not be careless. Now let me stay here for a minute. What do I mean when I say your deep abiding conviction will allow you to care less, but not be careless? What I mean by that is when you're trying to convince someone of something, you're spending far too much time caring about their interpretation of what it is you're trying to convince them of. But when you come at this convicted, at next level marketing, it allows you to care less about anyone else's response. Again, I reiterate, you're not on trial ever when you're speaking from a point of conviction, when you're campaigning from a place of belief. And that allows you to care less about someone else's response without coming across as being careless. Many of you have heard me said for years that if I could give a single maxim, a single saying that would inspire and help you to move into this next level of marketing, it is this: indifference makes the difference. We're spending way too much time worrying so much about, did we convince someone else? Indifference coupled with meaningful, deep, abiding conviction will signal every form of curiosity you could hope for in the people around you. So the first transition, the first paradigm shift I want to suggest to you is that old world multi-level marketing was obsessed with being convincing. We must be obsessed, committed to, and focused on being convicted. Okay, let's go to the next one. I believe the old world multi-level marketing was focused on transactions. In this new world, in this next level of network marketing, I believe we must move from transactions to transformations. Many years ago, one of my favorite books I'd read in probably the last 20 plus years is a book called The Experience Economy. Two gentlemen, Joseph Pine and James Gilmore, who had authored a landmark Harvard Business Review article, were postulating that the world was moving from a simple goods and services economy into a place where experiences would carry the day. They had actually unpacked their view of how economic value is determined. They said early on, we lived in a commodity marketplace. Those commodities over time were then moved into a making of goods economy. So commodities are fungible, a coffee bean, sugar, flour, if you're making a cake, right? Then they said somebody decided, what if we grind that coffee bean down and make it into a good, a ground coffee? There's more value in that, and people would pay more for that, and it would be more relevant to them. So they said we moved from a commodity, the extraction of commodities, into the making of goods. Somebody then said, well, what if we take the goods that are made and we brew the coffee for them, and we open a cafe and we charge them 50 cents or 70 cents or $1 for a cup of coffee? And so we moved in this progression of kind of economic value and identity from a commodities economy. Then we moved up to a making of goods from those commodities. Then we moved to a service economy. Now, 25 years ago, they were saying, we predict that this progression of economic value will move from commodities to goods and then goods to services, and it will find ultimate expression in experiences. So they wrote their book called The Experience Economy. And this particular book carried the day. It kind of prefigured or foreshadowed, if you will, the Starbucks success that we see in the world. Companies that made a cup of coffee really pulled from a commodity, then ground into a good, offered as a service, ultimately became an experience. You would meet for a cup of coffee at Starbucks in an environment that was experiential. And there's several examples that they were right, that the economy was moving to a place of experience. Now, what's interesting is several years ago, they updated the book and said, we believe the economy will pivot once further, that it certainly will still pull from the extraction of commodities, making goods, delivering a service, and even staging an experience, but it will transfer from there to the guiding of transformation. And they called this the transformation economy, that in this way, transformation economy would then guide consumers beyond experiences to a place where there was a soulful relationship with the brands they aligned with. And they were suggesting that the consumer would have an influence on the brand, and the brand would in turn re-influence the consumer. There was this cyclical and even reciprocal, powerful and genuine relationship of change and transformation to the benefit of both parties, not just the end consumer, but also the brand. As I was reading this years ago, I said, that's a game I would love to play in. The transformation economy, where we invest so heavily in your lives, like my inbox, the phones, the emails that I'm receiving right now from all of you are transforming me. This is what next level marketing is. Leadership legacies, finding expression, ethos discussions, listening to an Alan Noble, guiding your transformation, training and development, as well as products that are transformational. There's nothing more exciting to me than talking about the next version of you. I don't really get excited about the same version of you. And many of us have been on these long, lifelong straightaways where there's not a lot of turns. There's not enough transformation that's happening. Transformation speaks to potential. Transformation says, I can do and be more. It points to the very essence of our ethos, which is becoming. right? And so I want you to think about the old world was just worried about transactions. We need to move from transactions to really understanding that where progress will live, where people will have high relevance and high value in the future, is if they're guided in the transformations that truly shadow and foreshadow who they can be. And I get really, really excited and could spend the rest of my time just talking about this pivot point from transactions to transformations. Okay, hopefully this is making some sense. Let's go on to another one. This is one that you've heard me say before. I'm unapologetic about this. I want to be redundant about some things. You've heard me say for years that the old world multi-level marketing was over-obsessed, overemphasizing the essence of income. And they were not playing to the importance of what next level marketing is all about. By the way, this reaches right back into that transformation economy concept. It says the moral high ground of everything we have to offer is not just what we earn from the labors we do, but what we become by them. This does, in fact, point to a transformation economy. By the way, think about something as simple as Peloton. That's a transformation economy. They're being guided in that. There's interaction. There's a community associated with it, with an invitation to greater health. So when I think about income versus become, transactions versus transformations, that's what I mean when I talk about the power of focusing on this. You've heard us say for years, those of you that are new with ASEA today, the outcome, this is a play on words, the outcome is not income. The outcome is overcome and become and then income. So please give some consideration to this relationship of old world marketing being overly emphasizing on the income, but way, way, way underemphasizing of that real true way of becoming that I think is so naturally a byproduct of what we do here at ASEA. Okay, let's talk about number 4. Again, not unlike the third one, compensation. Comp plans. We've got to move from compensation to compassion. Your leadership legacy statements are so beautiful. I wanted to go write them all down and just stare at the language and the words. Do you understand the power of the language and the words that you're sharing? Do you understand the energy that those words represent, reverberating into a world that is becoming increasingly stubborn and recalcitrant and angry and acrimonious? And I'm like, no, this is the world I want to live in, where your words like lifting others, providing hope, awakening the divine in people to become what they can become. This is what I mean when I talk about next level marketing. You've heard me say that one of my favorite thinkers in the world is a gentleman by the name of Keith Yamashita. And Keith started a consultancy company called SY Partners. I was watching a speech that he gave online one time, and he said, it's so important to start from a pure place with equal parts aspiration and empathy. And I had to stop for a minute. I said, whoa, that's a very powerful suggestion. Those of you that might be starting with ASEA, take this advice from him. Start from a pure place. What does he mean by that? He means start with the purity of your intentions, of your leadership legacy language. Let that be that purity, that place where you begin from. But then couple that with a balance between aspiration, equal parts of aspiration and empathy. If it's just aspiration, isn't it possible that we leave the empathy behind? Isn't it possible that compensation, the aspiring to greater income, the acquisition of things, starts to stifle and smother this notion of empathy and compassion? I believe that moving from compensation to compassion really will be an important part of our journey of going from MLM to next level marketing, or NLM. Okay. One last thing on compassion. My wife called me at work a couple days ago and was so pleased with an experience that our son Noah had shared with her. I just want to share this. Noah came home from school and was visibly concerned. and sensitive about something, and Allison invited him to come into my office. I was at the corporate office of ASEA at the time. And Noah began to describe, Noah's 15, just got elected to the student council for next year. He's just this remarkable young man. And he came in and sat down and said, Mom, today at school, I looked across the commons area during lunchtime, and I saw a boy sitting all by himself. And he said his skin was almost peeling off of his face and hands. And I found myself just super worried about him. And he was all alone, and his face was buried in his phone. And he told my wife, Allison, that he walked across the commons and sat next to him and just said, hey, who are you? And found out that the boy had just moved here and tried to drum up a conversation with this young man. And then Noah, talking to my wife, started to cry. And he looked at my wife and said, I know what that feels like. I know what it feels like to be sitting alone at lunch. And my heart was just aching for this boy that I had just met. Now, I'm proud of my kids' sports, I'm proud of my kids' schooling, but nothing fills me with a sense of gratitude and pride more than when they will slow down enough, observe enough to see someone else and feel compassion for them. I believe if we will give serious consideration to what it looks and feels like to move from compensation to driven, focused on, and even obsessed with compassion, I believe we will be operating at an entirely new and next level in this world of next level marketing. Okay, this one's important to me. The old world, at least in my opinion, pardon me if you disagree, but in my opinion, was overly concerned with what I refer to as the optical. That which something appears to be, the form or shape something takes. And I believe next level marketing must become obsessed with and focused on and deeply committed, not to the optical, but to the actual. This speaks to the inner self. Think of the effect, the social media effect that we live in, where selfies and the ultimate perfect image of yourself is curated, even altered or manipulated in some sort of app to make it look unblemished and perfect, and posted to provide this immediate contrast to the world and the way my life is not, some differential or reference point that I never feel like I can reach. You're aware, I would hope, of the great number of youth that are taking their own lives or hurting themselves or at risk to themselves. Because why? Because they don't believe they're seen. And what the appearance is, I think of it this way, the appear is the appeal. They worry more about that appearance. I think we need to move away from what something appears to be and be open, honest, and real about what it is. You would think after all of these years of humanity that we would be more embracing of the actual and more quick to avoid the optical. Now, when optical and actual are one, that's integrity. When the form and essence of someone becomes one, that's wonderful. But optical without the actual, to me, is a challenge. I think we should move away from focusing on how you are seen and move towards seeing how you are, paying more attention to what's inside. One of my great books, as you know, is The Anatomy of Peace. And the founder of the Arbinger Institute was once asked a question when he was studying drama in New York City. They were walking out of a class, and a classmate said, "Do you love yourself in the theater?" She asked him, "Or do you love the theater in yourself?" In other words, are you in this for you or truly because of the essence of it that you love? He goes on to talk about how the question convicted him and that he wished that his pretenses could just fall away and leave him standing there honest and simple and solid and true, the actual not being hijacked by the optical. So please give that some thought. Next level marketing must move off of the obsession with the optical, how something is viewed, and must be obsessed with the essence of the actual. It's a powerful, powerful concept to consider. Now, before I show you the sixth of these paradigm shifts, I want to review. Multi-level marketing, old world mindset, was worried about being convincing. We must be convicted. The old world paid a great deal of attention to transactions. We must think about transformations of ourselves, of the products that we offer. They need to be transformative. Remember that transformation economy is becoming more and more relevant into the future. In our case, we need to move from an old world of talking about income, like the red badge of courage. We've got to move from that and talking about become and what the environment we're in and the marketing platforms we work from are doing to help us reach the full measure of our creation. We've got to stop obsessing and overemphasizing compensation and elevate our sense of compassion, which incidentally will inspire the most powerful forms of action from us when we feel what others are feeling, when we suffer, as the word passion is, with others. Calm is with, passion is suffering. Couple them together. We need to suffer with and be sensitive to the people we bring in and quit overemphasizing the comp or compensation. And then the last one, the fifth one that we talked about, this optical moving to the actual. Is this making sense to you guys as you're sitting in front of your computers and processing this? Can you see the power of marrying what Jaron was talking about, legacy company, your own legacy leadership journey, and then coupling that with our vision, our strategy, and this wonderful technology set that we have in our products to move us to the next level form of marketing? Okay, what about number 6? Let's talk about the next one. I think the old world was way wrapped around the axle of trying to get others to do something, get someone to move. I would like to pivot that and suggest the next level marketing must be obsessed with doing something for others. Through the products, through the development of becoming, as we've talked, or transforming, we can no longer simply engage in this convincing, transactional, income and compensation, optical game that's trying to get someone to do something, right? The most powerful, personal, and sacred place of all people is the ability for them to choose. Choice is the most sacred place of personal identity and sovereignty, and we must respect that. Raising 6 children as I am and have, there's nothing more important in raising children than learning to honor their agency, their ability to choose. We must resist the head fakes that are played out in the old world network marketing. We simply cannot be focused more on getting others to do anything. People come to me and say, I can't get my sister to take ASEA. And you've heard me say this before. I say, then leave your sister alone. Wait a minute, this is network marketing. No, this is next level marketing. Leave your sister alone. Speak to her from a place of conviction. Honor her agency. See her as real. Invoke compassion inside of you and see her as real. But if she's not there, there's nothing more violent than trying to get someone to do something. There's nothing more powerful than honoring the agencies of others when you speak and campaign from a place of conviction. Remembering from our ethos training of years past, the 3 questions where we say to ourselves, what is the real right thing to do? That moral imperative, and it is to do good for the one at your side. Some of you might have heard my remarks at the European convention, the earlier virtual Envision they had, where I told a story of my dad going into a grocery store, aiming as a broker to position more of the General Foods products he represented, only to see that the manager of the grocery store was clearly swamped. And as my dad approached, aiming to have some conversation, aiming to possibly get him to do something, the manager of the store said, time out, I don't have any time for you. I have 3 of my checkers that have called in sick, so the front of the store is in trouble. 2 of my stock personnel are no longer here today and went home sick as well. And I just received a huge shipment of groceries that are fully dropped into my back room and clogging everything up. I don't have time to talk to you. And what did my dad do? He didn't continue to try to override and get him to do something. He pivoted, walked away, turned and walked down the aisle of the grocery store into the actual stock room where all of these pallets of groceries had been delivered. My dad knew what was happening, knew what he was going through, took off his suit coat, put on an apron that he found hanging on a nail, and began to unpack, load, and clean the entire stock room of this random grocery store that was in his sales cycle that he would visit. And then when he was done, he hung up the apron and walked out. It's interesting to note that by pivoting his focus to doing something for that particular manager in need, engendering and sensing compassion, having run grocery stores in his very early life, my dad knew what that felt like. And so what did he do? He didn't continue to try to paint over the wallpaper of the moment and say, I want you to do something, I want you to do something. He read the situation and engaged in what I believe is the next level, transformative type of world, and said, I'm gonna do something for this person. And in his case, expected nothing in return. Came back the following month on his natural rotation to that store to find the store manager, the same person, who recognized him immediately, then said, whatever you'd like to do in my store in service of your interests, just tell me, because you're the one that cleaned the back room. You're the one that put away all the groceries that day. I remembered, I walked back and was completely surprised when I found it. And I realized it was probably you. So guys, let's remember, getting others to do something, convincing, focusing on transactions, needs to pivot to doing something for others. Okay, what about this word? Old world MLM, obsessed with, focused on hype. And doesn't this left-hand stack make sense to you? I need to hype you up to get you to do something, to convince you to play, to engage in a transaction that will drive my income, right? And I'm going to use optics to do that. We need to move from hope to hype. Excuse me, check that. We need to move from hype to hope. Next level marketing is going to be about hope. And it can't be false hope. It needs to be, we are no longer just promoters. We're also promoting hope and practicing hope. That hype that's exaggerated in the now that represents impulse, right, needs to pivot to a place of hope that's anchored in a better future, anchored in the potential, whether that's health or financial well-being. We must move from hype to hope and make sure that we're helping people. You've understood and heard me talk about the fact, and I'm not afraid to say this, especially for those of you that are first interacting with ASEA at this event or recently started with us. I didn't believe that salt and water in a blue bottle, having gone through a patented process, would be of any advantage to anyone in the early. My fear and doubt were real. But it was when hope was awakened in me, when my experiences started to see maybe that the powerful notion of what if. Hope, right? Hope comes from that place of what if I could do this? What if I could make $300 more a month or $400 more a month? Hype is trying to get me to imagine probably something that might be out of my reach. I had to go through a place of fear and doubt, but then move to a place of hope. That hope inspired belief, that belief became action. And I believe that hope, not hype, but hope inspires all meaningful action. If someone has a belief and a feeling that swells within them, that there can be something better in the future than what their current experience claims today, then in fact, you will see action. But we must do it from a place of deep inspiring of hope and not from over-promoting in the form of hype. Okay, I'm running a little out of time, so I'm going to speed up, guys. I believe, and again, please don't be upset with my interpretation of old world. I hope you're tracking with me on this. I hope you're believing and sensing what I'm saying. I believe the old MLM models were way too obsessed with being valued and recognized. I think that was the primary game, was we're committed to being valued and recognized. Now, I just want to promote and suggest we must pivot from being valued and recognized to recognizing that you and I must add value. You know that my father for years has taught, You're going to be valued in life in large measure to the degree that you make yourself valuable and you add value to others. So your job then is to consider, how am I adding value to the situations I'm in? Is it sharing product with others? Is it opening opportunities for new potential income streams in their life? I know this, that if you over-obsess with being valued and recognized for what you do, instead of over-obsess on recognizing you must add value, it almost always foreshadows something bad. When you're spending more time calling out how you're undervalued or not recognized, rather than really trying to think, how do I add value? How can I increase the recognition that I need to add value to a situation? Everything changes. It's a massive paradigm shift, and I believe is central to what next level marketing is. Early in my career, I was promoted into a job that I had no business taking at my age. A gentleman came into my office that was one of the great mentors of my life, and he said, "Can I give you 2 pieces of advice?" And I said, "Absolutely." He said, "First piece of advice," and I had to hear this twice or 3 times. I even wrote it down, so I'm going to say it a couple times for you. He said, "Tyler, the price it takes to keep this job, this promotion you just received, the price it takes to keep this job should be equal to or greater than the price it took to get it." And I said, "Can you say that again?" He said, "Yes. The price it takes to keep this job should be equal to or greater than the price it took you to get this job." Wow. I sat at my desk after he left. He was trying to say, you need to continue to add value. Find ways to add value. The second piece of advice he gave me that day, which kind of hurt, he said, "Never forget, you were appointed, not anointed." He said, "Think about those things," and left the room. I want you guys to realize that I believe network marketing, even multi-level marketing, does in fact afford you an opportunity to live the lifestyle most people could never live by working really hard for a period of time. But I do not believe that we should stop adding value to the teams and organizations, even when we reach some plateau or some destination of income or even rank. I believe that we must continue to maintain an attitude that in some way, the price it took me to get here, right, needs to be matched with increased energy and effort in the form of value. I didn't say time, I said in the form of value. So let's not let that be lost. Robin Sharma said that the key to a great life lies in shifting your focus from accumulation to contribution. That old saying that he who gathers the most toys wins, it needs to be replaced with he who serves the most will prosper. I think we all would be well to remember happiness is the byproduct of a life spent adding value to other people's lives. So guys, let's remember the old world is being valued and recognized, and we must recognize it's our job to add value in the new world. Okay, a few more. What about this concept of building checks? I don't know how many times we've hosted someone from a different company, an experienced leader that will come in to the boardroom at ASEA, or we'll meet him at a hotel while we're out traveling. This is for years now. And it's not uncommon for those leaders to say, "I built a really nice check with XYZ company, built a really nice check." Guys, we shouldn't be talking about building checks. We should be talking about building people. Remembering that it's not just about that income, it's about the become. And our hallmark, our true rank advancement is when we're building people, not just building up a check. Many of you have heard me share the poem that my mom made me memorize as a young boy. It goes something like this. I watched them tear a building down, a gang of men in a busy town, and with a ho, heave ho, and a lusty yell, they swung a beam, and an entire sidewall fell. I asked the foreman, "Are these men skilled, the kind you would hire if you had to build?" And he gave a laugh and said, "No, no indeed. Just common labor is all that I need. I can easily wreck in a day or two what a builder has taken a year to do." So I asked myself as I went on my way, which of these roles have I tried to play? Am I a builder who works with care, who measures life by rule and by square? Am I shaping my deeds to a well-made plan, building up others the best that I can? Or am I a wrecker who walks the town, content with the labor of tearing down? Next level marketing needs to be builders of people. Unskilled common labor wrecks, right? We must walk the town looking for opportunities to build and lift others. I would plead with you to avoid the notion of, I built a nice check. Our job is to build people. So keep that in mind as you consider what next level marketing is. A couple more and then I'll wrap this up. Closing sales needs to pivot to opening minds. These terms that have prevailed, these old world, almost legacy sales terms that turn the person into an object, we've got to pivot from those. Next level marketing will be far more interested in opening the minds of people we visit with about the possibility of what can happen, right? Versus, I think, the probability of how we might hold ourselves back. So closing sales, and I'm going to kind of shorten these last few, closing sales versus opening minds. The next one, and I've got two more. I think old world network marketing and multi-level marketing spent so much time thinking about moving product. I think we must invest in the business of moving people. Of course, you can see that all of these on that next level right side of the screen are kind of starting to move together into this amalgam of what next level really feels like. I truly do believe if we move people, we will in fact move product. But we've got to pivot away and start really engaging and investing in the hard work, the heavy lifting of building the people and moving them, rather than just saying, let's sell more of a given product. Okay, there are 12 of these. This is the last one. I kind of was thinking about the notion of old world marketers were always wanting to present. As a young man in college, I was approached by someone from the multi-level marketing industry. I didn't know at the time what was happening, but he just kept saying, I just want to come present something to you. I just want to come present something to you. And it was like nonstop. And then we didn't really know what was happening until he came to an apartment with a handful of us in college and then wanted to present. And I think we need to move away from being able to present to just being present. We need to be, as I said earlier today, we need to live in the moment to create momentum. We have to observe to serve. You have to listen. We need to slow down and spend time being present and seeing these other people around us as people. Okay, guys, so from convincing to convicted, from transactions to transformations, from income to become, right? These are the pivot points, from compensation to more compassion, from the optical to the actual. Stop getting others to do something and start really obsessing on doing something for others. Let's not traffic in thin or hollow hype, the hot air balloon of hype. Let's move to the place of the substance of hope in the future. Let's not overly concern ourselves with being valued and recognized. Let's recognize we must add value. Let's not just focus on building checks. Let's build people. Maybe closing sales, right? This old language that prevails. Let's open minds. Let's stop focusing on moving product. Let's worry about moving people. And maybe a little less concerned about being able to present what I want to say and just letting us sit in the moment and being present. I recently heard a wonderful talk about a new moral imagination. What a new moral imagination would look like. How do you promote the imaginative in morality? I like to think that where the new moral imagination intersects with ASEA is embodied in this paradigm shift from MLM to NLM, or next level, where we take very seriously the fact that our industry is often indicted for living so aggressively on the left side as primary motive and giving away the high ground of the right side. It's misunderstood by regulators and by competitors. There are bad actors, there are bad apples for sure, but we should own at a very personal level and take very seriously the idea that for us, as for this organization, we will bias our attention and effort to the right side of this, that we will move to a next level. Will we all do it perfectly? No. Will I? No. Will you? No, of course not. But if we can stop and just contemplate this, get contemplative about it, get intentional about it, and give yourself some thought to say, am I living too much in this old world lexicon and language and motive? And what does it feel like to surrender to what next level could feel like? Now, if you'll couple this stack, right, this right-hand side, with what Jerem was talking about earlier today, and frankly, what's going to be shared both in Nashville and in the coming months beyond Nashville, even into next year's convention, you're going to couple some remarkable strategic advantages in the forms of products, platforms, customer acquisition models we're working on, really exciting next level things on the business side. But we must take our own personal next level to a new place. Now, you might notice the words compassion or become or doing something for others or adding value, building people as something we've been talking about for a very long time in the context of the ASEA ethos. Ethos, of course, being our distinctive spirit, what makes us who we are, the distinguishing elements of our culture. And we've been trying to teach this for 11 years. Has it been in this particular paradigm? No, but I sat and stared at it and said, next level marketing is a deeper commitment to, in fact, the ASEA ethos at a different level. And hopefully just seeing this play on words, this pivot point between how these words all play together, that might awaken your sense of, I got it, I can see this. That's next level. And this is multi or old world level. I need to take my business to that next level. I can assure you the work we're doing right now in the corporation to provide tools, resources, strategies, support, and execute well. The changes we're making, the things we're trying to accomplish are all aimed at giving you a next level business opportunity. I believe if we will couple that with a next level commitment to these types of concepts, of being convicted, transformative, of focused on our own journey of becoming, of compassion, of really working on the inside out, the actual versus the optical, doing something for others, promoting and practicing hope, recognizing our need to add value at all times. I think all of this will come back to us in the form of really differentiating us as a next level marketing entity as opposed to simply another MLM. Now, let me wrap this by saying there's an interesting relationship. No doubt some of you on the call are saying, well, there's nothing wrong with being convincing. There's certainly nothing wrong with a transaction. I could not agree more. I'm not indicting these terms in and of themselves. I'm suggesting to you that there's a really interesting relationship looking from right to left. If you'll commit yourself to being convicted, I submit to you, you will be convincing. If you'll worry more about transformative products, transformative opportunities, transformative training and onboarding, and really worried about that, you'll see more transactions. And as you can imagine, I can keep going down the line. If you worry about becoming, you'll see the income. If you worry about being more compassionate, I submit to you, you will be compensated. And by the way, in ways far greater than money, right? I truly do believe that prosperity is measured in way more than just money, but you will be compensated. And I could continue all the way down this line for all of you to say, guys, look, this is not just a single thing. There's nothing wrong with getting others to do something. There's nothing wrong with promotion and hype if it's substantive and born from the motives on the other side of this page. So this is the message I wanted to share with you guys today. This concept that we've got to move from an old world paradigm. We've got to become contemplative and introspective about how we show up in this liminal space, this transitional space. What is the new moral imagination for how I engage in this old world of multi-level marketing? How do I take it to that next level? I want to invite you to give serious consideration to this. Couple this with your own leadership legacy as discussed earlier today and the beautiful emails that you're sending to me. They're just beautiful. Now consider leaning into this notion of next level marketing. how it's informing the way you talk to people, how you think about the opportunity. And manage yourselves. You have to manage those motives so they don't move back to the primary focus being that left side old world paradigm, but elevate yourself to the next level of what we can become. I believe if we will do that hard work and stay there and show up to do this work and couple that with what Jerem shared earlier today and the things you'll see with us in Nashville, I truly don't believe we will be equaled in this industry or in this world that we know of as true direct sales and network marketing. I think we will be next level players, and it will draw more and more people to us. So we can't thank you enough for being with us today. How we wish we could hug you and see you on breaks and visit with you. But your texts and emails to me have meant the world. You are next level players. I think we just need to collectively commit at a whole new level to what this really stands for. And you don't want to miss Nashville, and you don't want to be there flat-footed. So work hard to build your business, and let's take this to the next level, guys. Thanks so much.